Thanks for joining us today and welcome to this webinar on My Voice, Our Equal Future. This is a theme of the United Nations International Day of the Girl Child for this year 2020. So today we are seizing this opportunity to be inspired by what adolescent girls and boys see as the change they want. The solutions are big or small, and they are leading and demanding across the globe. So there are a few students here with me who have joined us from the United States of America and from India, and they would like to discuss the various advocacies they've been part of to assert their power as change makers. They are here to inspire us. And we also have a keynote speaker, Cynthia Changyit Levin, with us. She would moderate this session along with me. She's going to offer guidance. She's going to offer inspiration to amplify our voices as girls, as women, as young boys. And some of our teenagers who have joined us are climate activists, education enthusiasts, and some of them are even lobbying to abolish the pink tax. It's going to be amazing. This discussion is the total inspiration. I've already had a chat with these guys some days back, and I've been blown away. And I so eagerly am looking forward to this webinar myself. So Glow Webinars is a part of the Heartfulness Institute, and the Heartfulness Institute offers heartfulness meditation for people across the world. We have more than 10,000 certified heartfulness trainers who volunteer for this. GLOW stands for Genuine Loving Outstanding Women, and there's a series of monthly webinars to bring meditation to women in the comfort of their homes and workplaces. So let me begin by introducing Cynthia today. Cynthia is an American activist for global health and education. In 2003, she left a career in automotive engineering to be a stay-at-home mother. Her new maternal perspective helped her to see the difficulties of mothers raising children in poverty more clearly. It added to worries about the future of her own children. Engaging in advocacy helped her move from feeling helpless about the world's problem to serving as a board member at a top international advocacy organization. She accepted invitations to take part in World Bank meetings, a UN Foundation trip to Africa, and for the past 13 years, she's coached volunteer advocates for Results, United Nations Foundation, and CARE. Thank you once again for joining us today, Cynthia. It's an honor to have you with us on this GLOW webinar. And thanks on behalf of our participants and the Heartfulness Institute.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Purnima.
So Cindy, as we begin this webinar, I would like to ask you a first question. Why is it important to lift up female voices? Why is this topic relevant today?
That is an excellent question. And because of my background, I'm sharing my perspective today as an anti-poverty activist for global health and education. I believe that it is critical to uplift women and girls around the globe because we cannot overcome poverty until all people have equal rights and opportunity. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. And you're asking, why is it important to lift up female voices in particular? Well, one of the organizations I volunteer with, CARE, consistently finds that programs and policies that are shaped by women have much better outcomes in terms of equality and access to care, better governance, and even more durable peace agreements. So just today, I saw more evidence of that. CNN reported on a paper by a bunch of international researchers noting that men overwhelmingly dominated decision-making around the world on COVID-19 policy. They found that countries led by women had much better outcomes during the pandemic, with female leaders locking down earlier and their countries suffering half as many deaths from the virus. So that article said, and I'm quoting here, having more women involved in decision-making disrupted groupthink. It led to more novel viewpoints and a higher quality of monitoring and management, as well as more effective risk management. So I believe that's related to communication differences and differences in life experiences that women bring to the table. So I just want to be clear here that we're not just saying that we need female perspectives so that women and girls can feel emotionally empowered or reap the health benefits just themselves, although those are really good things. Pandemics affect everyone, and climate change affects everyone. Gender equality affects everyone who has a part in the global community or global economy. And maternal health affects everyone, since every single human on the planet was born from a person with a uterus. So women's issues are everyone's issues. For the good of the planet, we need to hear more female voices in leadership, and to see everyone supporting women and girls in ways that are big and small.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I totally agree with you, and thank you for that very important perspective and for that important truth, rather. So Cindy, tell me a little bit more about the work which you do with all these organizations. You work with the United Nations Foundation, you work with CARE, you work with Results, and I would like for us to share that background a little bit before we begin.
Oh, thank you very much. As you mentioned earlier, it was about 13 years ago, I started to reach out to my elected officials when I was a new mom, and I had left my job as an engineer to raise a daughter, raise two daughters eventually. My second daughter is with us on the call. I didn't have a background in politics or anything, but through some really great organizations like the One Campaign and Results, I learned to write letters to the people who represent me in Washington, D.C. I learned to call up their offices to leave my opinion. Those organizations really helped me to know when my call would be the most effective, like right when important decisions were being made about hunger and poverty. Those were the things that I most cared about at that time. They also taught me how to write about these issues and to get my opinion into newspapers. But best of all, I learned to actually go to talk to elected officials face to face. Just last year, I started working with CARE because they focus on the policies affecting women and girls in particular. The best part of all of this is that I learned to teach other people of all ages, including Summer and Sri, these same skills. I especially coach moms of young children on how they can use their influence to change public policy. And that's even the subject of my upcoming book. It's called From Changing Diapers to Changing the World. It's become my passion to help empower women to engage with their governments for the betterment of society.
Thank you, Cindy. And congratulations on your upcoming book. I eagerly wait for it.
Thank you.
So, moving on, I have this, I would like to open up the webinar to all the wonderful students who have joined us today. So to give a little bit of context before we begin that, 25 years ago, 30,000 women and men from 200 countries arrived in Beijing, China for the 4th World Conference on Women. And they were determined to recognize women's rights as human rights. In the following years, women pressed this agenda forward, leading global movements on issues ranging from reproductive health, equal rights to pay, and so on. Today, this movement has expanded, and here we are sitting and talking about Day of Girl Child. So we have Samar from the USA, we have Srinija from Chennai, we have Shri Jaladi from the USA, Abhinaya from India, Maya, Harsh, Urvashi, and Adyant from India joining us on this important topic. So my first question to you guys is, what does the International Day of Girl Child mean to you? And what do you wish for women and girls from around the world? I invite Maya to begin.
Yes, so the International Day of Girl Child, it has a specific meaning to me. To go with a personal anecdote, I am a scientific autodidact. I'm passionate about science, and also a person who knows a martial art, kickboxing. Now, this isn't the most variable combination the society expects in a female, they have these stereotypes and pre-existing notions as to how they want the female children in the world to be or women in the world to be. And I don't exactly fit into that category of those stereotypes and exhibiting them. Now, that affects everyone as a whole. Now, these pre-existing notions, it affects every single person on the planet, and especially women, because they more likely, the rudimentary perspective of stereotypes, they focus on how we need to put boundaries around women and set limits to them, their potential and their qualities. Now, let me pose a question. Name 5 superheroes. Now, studies have shown that most people would say Batman, Superman, The Flash, Captain America, and people like that. Now, but there are also superheroes like Supergirl, Captain America, Captain Marvel, and Black Widow, and people like that. Now, it's not that they don't recognize their contribution, it's just they're not as popular as the male counterpart. And that all, it roots back to the fact that there are stereotypes and they need to be broken in this world. Now, these people, they're superheroes. They think that women need saving and that men are the ones to do it. That's how the society has evolved over time, to teach kids about the stories of a prince saving a princess from a tar and things like that. And those are what needs to change. Now, our society is progressing towards this change, and that is an amazing thing to see, because right now you have TV shows like Supergirl. Now, that's essentially this character, a female protagonist, revolves around her being the informal term, being a dorky person, and also a crime-fighting superhero. Now, this isn't, like I said, a variable combination the society expects in a woman. And when we see that, it gives us a new perspective and open-mindedness on how people can be, how everyone should be who they are, and how they should be accepted as who they are. And that is what I want for the women and children around the world. I hope that not only women and children, but every single person, they get to be who they are just by expressing themselves without the society setting boundaries and limits on their abilities and potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. That was so inspiring. And I hope we can get there very soon. But let me tell you something. There are female superheroes inside all of us. You know, I don't want to watch a TV show with a superhero because I'm a superhero myself. That's what I would like to think. And I want women and girls all over the world to think that. I certainly agree with you. And I certainly agree with this mindset that people across the world have this stereotypic mindset. It's you who should bring out your superhero. Thank you so much, Maya, for that beautiful, very clear response. I would like to ask Harsh what he thinks now.
Yeah. So to do what no one else will do, in a way no one else can do, in spite of all that they go through, that is a caregiver. So I'll be saying about lack of respect for caregiving. Okay, so women who are caregivers, they usually have 2 full-time jobs while competing with men who have only one. There's data which supports the fact that in the US, more than half the women are primary breadwinners of the houses. So if we want to see a change, we need to understand and value care work as a work which involves investing yourself into others through physical care, teaching, mentoring, tutoring, advising, etc. as every bit a hard work, but which we often simply ignore, even though it should be rewarded. So we need to learn to appreciate their contribution in our houses and society. And for that, we need to bring in a change in our mindsets through social awareness and education. So often, okay, so there have been suggestions that the caregivers' work are often ignored because it is assumed that they do not earn for the family, and hence a part of the family's income should be considered as their contribution. So the ultimate change that we want to see should be that traditional women's work is as truly equal to traditional men's work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsh. You know, in the olden days, it was considered equal work. It was considered that, you know, women were doing this work and men were doing this work, and it was just a division of labor. But somewhere along the line, as history, you know, as civilization progressed, we just started getting into this mindset of women are not doing important work. But taking care of the family, bringing up her children, cooking for the family, it was equal work. It was just division of labor, and it originated like that. But I know we have, you know, transitioned into some other place, and we need to come back and look at this as a very important, very respected, very holy work. So let's get to that in a while. So let's dig into some solutions. We have Cindy here, and Cindy, would you like to share some different types of solutions for these common challenges which women face? Would you like to elaborate on certain advocacies, certain types of advocacies, categories? I've been receiving a lot of queries from the participants. I'll just read out from my phone here. There is Madhurika Agarwal who's asking, how do we educate parents about gender equality? And then there's, how do we create a change in attitude for the family and community? Removal of fear of other communities in girls as well. An appropriate legal support system is necessary. We need to start working on that. You know, strict laws for doctors under PCT and DT Act, not to reveal the gender of the fetus. Oh my God, there are so many queries on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Facebook. So, you know, those are a few of it. Girls are found on the streets begging in, you know, certain countries. Shouldn't government be setting up aided institutions? Girl child trafficking. Okay. So you get the drift, right? So let's begin with a few of these issues and solutions to them.
Sure. Just to set up our conversation, I want to talk about sort of the different categories. You use that word, and I think that's a good one, to think about how we can take action on these, because it can be kind of overwhelming to think about the wide variety of things that we can do. And sometimes we think that things are not within our grasp. So I like to think about 4 main categories that we might discuss today as we bring up the different issues. The first one is a personal level, your everyday life. What are you doing as you encounter the women and girls in your life, and how are you lifting them up? What are the personal actions that you can take? And another, because we have so many students on the call, let's talk about the student or the school club level, about what you can do when you get together with your friends. This is also everyday life, but it's more banding together instead of just the individual way. Growing out from that, let's talk about also non-government organizational level, the NGOs, how we can have even bigger impact on those things. And then growing out from that, what could we even do on a global or international policy level? So those are kind of 4 things. And as we move through what the kids on the call want to talk about, we can bandy about those 4 different ways that we might look at the problems.
Thank you for giving that very clear 4 categories of advocacy. So I'm just summing up briefly what Cindy said. There is this personal advocacy level where we can have this everyday advocacy in our everyday life with our friends, with our caregivers. And then there is the school club advocacy level. And then there is advocacies with NGOs where you can join these people and, you know, contribute along with them. And then there is global advocacy. So let's begin, and we would love to hear your voices. If Srinija would like to start, that would be amazing.
Yes. So I think for, you know, for anybody, or especially in India, because I'm from India, I can, you know, connect better to what's happening in India right now. The women here, they're very conserved, right? A lot of them, almost more than 50% of the women living here are very conservatory. They're not, you know, it's because of the history and what they've been taught by their elders. They're supposed to stay at home. They're not supposed to, you know, go anywhere. They're just supposed to stay at home, and they're not given equal rights. So because they stay at home, in this process, right, for so many generations, they're just staying at home, not, you know, seeing what's happening outside them, outside their houses. They don't know how the actual world is functioning, in the sense how the nation as a whole is functioning. Their knowledge is just, you know, constrained to their village or their house or their locality. So I think a very important way in which women actually can speak up for themselves is that if they understand what's happening in the nation as a whole and not just their locality. And for that to happen, I think NGOs is a great option for that, because there are a lot of NGOs right now traveling to different villages and actually explaining to them, saying this is the global scenario or this is a national scenario, and this is how things are working as in a nation and not just in your village. And I think that is working really well right now. um, to make a change at like a basic level, right, at a personal level, something that everybody does is watch television. We all watch television on a daily basis, or even that's something that's common to even the rural people or the people who live in cities. And television makes a great impact because we see it every day. And something that happens in television that's real, that's very sad, and that's not very, nice out there is the various ads that come out, especially the facial cream ads, the fairness ads that come out, that glorify that, if you're more white, or you're more, your skin is more fair, you're more accepted into the society. Or if you have pimples, or if you have anything in your skin, it means you're not perfect. So it creates that image that what is perfect and what is not perfect. It dictates to them. And because people are actually not coming out of their houses, they don't know what's happening outside, and they believe that, okay, fine, this is what the world expects me to do. I need to look prettier, I need to be perfect, everything needs to be perfect in this way. Or it could be anything, for example, your hair color, your skin, or anything that your appearance. So I really feel these stereotypes and these things should really stop. That is something that we can do. And I really like to point out that in India, a national television channel, NDTV, has actually, since 2015, it has banned any kind of a fairness ad or anything that glorifies what is to be perfect and what is not perfect, or rather what dictates that this is what is right and this is what is wrong. So I think that's a major step taken by that particular channel. And it would be really great if more channels actually come and take part in this and actually say, no, we're not going to encourage this kind of ads, we're not going to encourage this kind of a portrayal of what is perfect. I think these two are like some major things at a global level and at a personal level itself that we can bring out a change.
Thank you, Srinija. I just remember that Summer, who's joined us here from USA, she's a global health advocate with results. She's also a hub coordinator for the Sunrise Movement, which is a grassroots for climate change organization. So I just remember that Summer also spoke a little bit about a few of the issues which you mentioned when I had this little chat with her earlier. And she might be also having a few inputs to this. And Summer, would you like to share them?
Yeah, of course.
Thank
So a lot of things that I've found kind of in my school system and in my environment that is very detrimental to like how girls see each other is just the kind of what Srinija was talking about, like the idea that we're not enough or we're not perfect. One like clear example is during like our classes or during school, like if there are male or like other students that are asked like, are you good at math or are you good at this class, they'll be like, yeah. But I've just noticed a lot of girls in my grade, even if they're better than those other kids, they'll say, I'm okay, or I could be better. And it seems to heavily kind of tend towards the other girls in my grade. And so something that I'm trying to do, and I'm not great at it, but I'm still working, is just like building those people back up, because you are good, even if you get like less than perfect grades. Less than perfect doesn't mean you're bad or you're mediocre. Like, you are you. So that's kind of the levels that I'm starting at. I've been doing a few other actions, but that's the main thing. Just like working within my little bubble, encouraging the people around me, and then they can encourage the people around them. And if we just spread a better image of who we are, as women and a better image of others, that can really make a huge change. So I find that super important with just talking about it, conversation.
To throw in there that sometimes it's so hard to just be us, and we need to lift each other up as well. And what Srinitra was saying about television is like, we're getting inputs from school, we're getting inputs from other places, we're getting it from television. And Purnima, you and I had an experience putting together this webinar where we're talking about fairness of skin and things like that. Would you like me to talk about that, or do you want to share a little bit about it?
Absolutely, you go ahead.
That we had a choice for this webinar of what we should choose for an image for the Day of the Girl webinar. And there was an image that was put before us as an option of a very pleasant looking young girl. She had some flowers and she looked very confident and strong. But she was very, very fair of skin. And I just got to thinking about some of the problems that have been brought up about some of these commercials and the heightening of lighter skin as an ideal. And it's like, you know what? We don't need to do that on our own webinar. So I thank the people who brought that up to us, and Srinitra for talking about that. And what you were saying with the news channels, I think is really important. There's the personal level that Summer was talking about, and there's our personal choice level of like, which news programs do we choose to watch? What do we choose to buy?
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. Thanks for bringing up all those issues, Srinija. And isn't it amazing that there is this news channel which totally boycotted these type of commercials? And it's so amazing that we are mentioning this on the webinar, and I hope it will be an inspiration for many of those who are watching it to understand. Thank you so much, Srinija, and thank you, Samar, for just asking us to be us. You being you is so amazing. Thank you.
So hi, I'm Urvashi, and I would like to add on Summer's point. She stated that being us is perfect. You know, I strongly believe that being us is perfect, and it's absolutely, we should actually, you know, go up with it, not keep judging ourselves for it, or you know, think about what society is going to tell about us or keep judging us. And I find the most judgment or the most low we feel about ourselves is when we get our periods or our menstruation cycle. Well, as in like in my school or the people I am with, we are very skeptical on how we behave or how we show ourselves when we have our periods. We tend to, you know, shy away, move away from people to, you know, maintain, because we feel like people would judge, or we're just scared of judgment. And the most comes when we have our periods. And I feel that is very wrong of us to do that, because we are girls and we bleed, and you should accept the fact that yes, I do, and move on with it. You can't keep thinking, oh my god, no like that's just not fair on my part. But a lot of other girls also, you know, are like, yeah, I bleed, yes, I'm very strong on that, and we should appreciate them more. I have been talking with I had a little chat with my father about periods and why they used to do it in, you know, put the girl away or when they have their periods or something. It's because in the traditional way, they used to live in mud houses. So when they bleed, there's germs and everything, bacteria and everything. So they don't want the house to get affected by it. So without being educated or without knowing what it is for, the youth tend to have a lot of questions on that, and the elderly people do not know how to answer it. So we feel it's unfair. That's why education is very important, you know, knowing about why we had this. And that's why in rural places, it's very common to see people like this, put away, because they still do live in mud houses. Some people still do. And now we are in cities and big towns, and we should be more aware of where we are in various situations and grow up to that. You can't keep on, I'm not telling that the tradition is wrong or anything, but you can't keep following something when it's new, when we are produced, or when we are around new places. We can't keep doing that, because we also have questions and we also feel judged and unsafe. So my mom always tells me that whenever you're feeling down, or whenever you feel someone else is, you want to help someone else, just, send a thought or prayer to them. This was from our Heartfulness Institution. And I would like you all to, try it a little, to send a thought to all the brothers and sisters all over the world. So if everyone could close your eyes and send a little prayer to everyone, please close your eyes. Please have the thought that all the brothers and sisters all over the world they have the love and devotion in their heart, and that they get correct thinking, right understanding, and an honest approach to life. I would like you all to focus on this thought and spread as much as positivity as you can. Thank you. Now you may open your eyes.
Thank you so much, Urvashi.
You're welcome, ma'am.
It's really interesting for me to hear about how these difficulties for menstruators is playing out in India. In the United States, it's a little bit different. And Summer and Sri have both taken actions on issues around women's periods and the products that we need. Sometimes it happens that we experience some level of shame about it. And there's also a level of governments imposing different taxes on the products that we need. So Summer and Sri, I'd love to hear some of the actions that are happening around that.
So hi, my name is Sri. I live in the United States, and about 2 years ago, I started an advocacy club at my school through which I've had the opportunity to participate in and support students and groups in topics that they are very passionate about. And there were some students at my school who were very passionate about ending the pink tax within the state of Missouri. And for those who may be unaware of the pink tax, it is essentially a tax on women's hygiene and necessary products, which often creates an unfair price, an additional price of those needed items. And this was a topic that I was fully not aware of, and I did not necessarily have that same firsthand experience that some of these students had, but I was able to support them by setting up lobby meetings for them with policymakers and legislators so that they had an opportunity to advocate and have their voice heard on this topic, and how they would be able to reach the public with their viewpoints and necessary steps. And I think that the Advocacy Club has provided me with a great opportunity to really support this vital movement and play my part towards the solution and making progress, even though I may not have that firsthand experience that many people do. And I think that advocacy in some form is a manner in which everyone can really pitch in and play a role in this very important movement.
Absolutely. And I think you had some success with a legislator that came to speak with you, is that right?
Yes, so State Senator Jill Shoup was actually one of the people who we were able to lobby to about this topic, and she was very moved by it. She was very moved by the students who talked about it and their passion, and really recognized that, and instantly sort of went back and began to pursue this and pursue making sure what steps were necessary in order to make this change and essentially get rid of this tax.
Amazing. Congratulations on good work done, Shri Jaladi.
In my school, we actually did something kind of similar. we had a group that took, I think, a month to focus on period poverty and talk about that. They had they did presentations to the school throughout the year. One of them was a video of, they sent a bunch of high school boys to go buy pads and tampons. It was pretty funny. They didn't know anything. But they really did informational sessions, and at the last half of the month, it culminated in a big tampon drive where they collected donations, and then they would, I can't remember the name of the organization they were working with at the time, but they would give it to that organization that provided them free to women who needed it in developing countries. So I remember we got, I think, 4 boxes, both 4 boxes for me and 4 boxes for my sister, and we donated, and it felt really good because I do a lot of different kinds of advocacy. I write letters to Congress members in my state, but that was kind of something new that I hadn't tried before, doing donations. And I was really thankful for that group in my school that decided to do that, and I thought it changed a lot of us.
I thank you for sharing those stories, because they really illustrate how students can come together and accomplish more than they can as individuals.
I'm inspired by the stories shared by Samar and Shri. So thank you so much for those amazing inspirations.
If I can say something, so I think it's really wonderful how you can make a change, right from school, forming these clubs and all of that. And I think after the first session, myself, Adiyant and Maya, we were really inspired by these clubs, and it's really inspiring that just from school, from as students, we still can make a change. So I think we have a very vague idea right now to probably start something like that in our school too. So thank you for that inspiration. It's not really sure, but yeah, we just got a vague idea of what we could do from our school itself.
Wow, we already have a success story. I'm so happy.
It all starts with ideas, right?
Yeah. So amazing.
One thing I'd like to see is for more women representation in the field of world politics, because we need perspectives from both the genders, because both genders need to coexist in the world. For that to happen, we need the perspectives from both the genders, and we need equal representation. And as Cindy said, a lot of countries with female leaders have shown better results than those with male leaders. So this essentially means that having both genders would be more beneficial for the entire society in terms of politics and world politics. There has to be equal representation in the fields of world politics and anything which involves leadership and legislation. And for that to happen, women need to know their rights, and they have to do whatever is needed for them to come up to that level. And that has to start with the abolishing of social stigmas and social evils that are practiced in rural areas. There are a lot of talented women in rural areas, but they are tied down to their households because of the social stigma. It is basically that according to tradition that men have to go out and do the work, and women have to stay at home and take care of cooking and all the other household chores. But recent studies have shown that women spend about 90% of their time at home doing household, practicing unpaid labor, while men go out and earn. This is not right, because there are many cases in which a man might be more talented at doing things at home, and the woman might be more talented at doing things outside the homes. So what has to happen is proper workshops and awareness programs have to be conducted in rural areas to prove that men and women are equally talented, and one has to follow his or her heart and passion to practice whatever he or she is good at. Let me provide a few statistics. since men are considered to be the superior gender in rural areas, which is absolutely not right. There is a lot of domestic abuse and violence practiced in rural areas. Around 43% of women have reported next door domestic violence. So proper awareness programs and workshops have to be conducted in those areas, so that men should know that women and men are equal, and they have no right to domestically abuse or violate women in the rural areas. Having that said, I think I've made my point.
Oh, certainly you have. Certainly you have. I was so impressed with the statistics which you had digged up to share with us. It shows your interest. It shows how passionate you are about this.
I'm really glad that you brought up those issues, because now we're getting into those thorny problems that can't be solved just by our personal good wishes and friendship. They can't be solved just by school clubs. We're really getting into the problems that have to be solved, addressed by organizations, NGOs, non-government organizations. And I think it's really important as you graduate from school, as you head out and see these issues, if there's something that you want to tackle, I think it's important to look around and see who is already working on these problems. There are some organizations that are having great success with it. And I know that sometimes people get very excited about wanting to solve a problem and start an organization right away, when these are very delicate issues that need to have attention paid to cultural sensitivities and local politics and things like that. We have a video that we'd like to show that I saw from UNICEF. It's a little older, it's from 2011, but the organization still exists. And I thought it was a really good example of a group that is using local resources to tackle some of the very problems that we've been talking about.
Watching UNICEF television. Anusuya was supposed to get married last year. She was 13 years old and had by that time already been out of school for 2 years. Rukma is the prerika, or volunteer facilitator of the adolescent girls group in this remote village of Antapur. When she learnt about the planned marriage, she decided to step in.
I went to a place with some other ladies to find out why she was crying, if there was an argument or any other issue. But her mother started fighting with us.
Why was your mother fighting?
Because Rukma wanted to stop the wedding.
It took many visits. But in the end, Anusuya's parents agreed to call off the marriage.
Education is very important, but our parents never taught us that. So what could we do? We've lived our entire lives this way.
Launched by UNICEF in 2008 in partnership with the government of Maharashtra and local NGOs, Deep Shikha is now reaching more than 50,000 girls across 4 districts of the state. The groups are organized by prerikas like Rukma and aim to bring education and empowerment to these adolescent girls.
We pour this on the salt, and if the color changes, what does that mean?
If the color turns blue, then the salt is good. If it doesn't change, then it's bad.
The girls also share what they learn with other women in the village, bringing the benefits of life-saving knowledge to the wider community.
These girls are learning all about health and hygiene, how to wash their clothes and maintain cleanliness during the menstrual cycle. We didn't have this type of information before. We even used to dry our clothes in some unhygienic places and then wear them.
In these remote tribal areas, women, and particularly adolescent girls, do not traditionally speak out in public. Deep Shikha is giving them the courage and the knowledge to talk.
The girls ask me, how will we ever get rid of our fears? We are trying to give them that confidence and an education so that they can grow stronger. In the past, they didn't even have the courage to leave the house.
As a result of Rukma's tireless work, 15 adolescent girls from the village have returned to school. These girls are now emerging from behind the closed doors of their homes, to become active members of their community.
You can make a difference, a big difference, capitalizing on the energies of young women. And investing on an adolescent girl makes much more sense that you're investing on not just the individual, but you're investing on a whole family.
Harnessing the energy of this young generation, the Deep Shikha program is helping them to build the confidence and skills they need to navigate the challenges on the road to adulthood. This is Gitanjali Master reporting for UNICEF Television. For more information, go to unicef.org. Unite for Children.
It seems like one of the keys to their success is that there are local volunteers that are very involved in the villages, helping to make this change. And as you look at programs like that, it's, something to think about is, what are the best practices that they are addressing, that they are using? And what are the sensitivities that they're thinking about? How are they using partnerships with local people? And you can think about, what are they not addressing? Maybe there are organizations that you will have to start yourself using those best practices, or if they're doing exactly what you think should be done, how can you add your energies to increase their impact? Do we have any reactions to the video?
I believe Abhinaya had wanted to say something about it.
I would certainly talk about the point, rural education. If we look at the demographics, India is one of the most populated countries. However, the rate of girl education is quite low in the country. It is quite troubling to see the figures in the country where women are given the status of goddess. It is all because of the social issues like child marriage, child labor, which stop the girls from getting education. Parents pull daughters out of school to marry them off at an early age. Also, when girls indulge in child labor, they do not get time to study. And the second major reason would be there aren't many schools in the rural areas. This creates a distance problem as they are located far from villages. Yeah, that's all about the education. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinaya. I believe Shri was working on equitable education, economic parity, and talking to congressmen and advocacy at the country level. Am I right, Shri? Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so I've had the very lucky opportunity to be able to advocate for some global issues on education and health through results and advocate to members of Congress and their staff, which has overall been a very wonderful experience and definitely a manner that I have become involved in this movement. And one of the big things that I was able to advocate for early on through results was on equitizing and equalizing education throughout the world for every country and for every student. And I think that global education is first off very important because education is so necessary in order to address some of the economic inequalities that strain our world. And education can serve as a huge manner in which people can completely change their situation, their community situation, their country situation, and eventually the world. And I think that these economic inequalities that are present, not just between different countries and groups, but also between genders, is something that needs to be addressed and something that requires people to speak up and get involved and have their voices heard. And advocacy is definitely a way for people to get involved and really make a difference. And there are so many manners to do this, whether it's at the state or local level or approaching national representatives to persuade them and inform them on this important movement and topic. And just having a few minutes to talk to them face to face or potentially writing letters to the editors, calling them to action, everything matters and everything can make a difference. And I think that one key thing with this movement is that there isn't necessarily a simple one-size-fits-all solution, but it really requires everyone and anyone to pitch in and create that change that is so essential.
Thank you so much, Shri. Wow.
I feel like you just wrapped that
yeah.
whole thing up right there.
I'm completely blown away by what he had to say.
Thank you, Shri. And thank you for your activism on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunities that you have helped me with as well.
Thank you, Sri. It was an honor to work with you on that kind of legislation. Summer worked on it too. I'm just going to add that this change does not come quickly sometimes. One piece of legislation that we worked on together was called the READ Act here in our country. And Summer, how long did we work on the READ Act? It was 10 years. So she started when she was very small. Sri joined us later when we met him, but sometimes change at that international level can be a very long time coming. So I just want to encourage everybody to stay in the fight.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, so I essentially read this article. It was a news piece, essentially. It was about this woman, child from a rural area in India, a North Indian rural area. She was a woman who was very passionate about reading and studying, and she was also passionate about science. Usually in India, people aren't, or globally, women aren't exactly encouraged to pursue science or any subject for that matter, or education for that matter in rural areas. Now, she was encouraged, she wasn't exactly encouraged, but then there was support from her family that was given. And she went on to pursue education, and she got really good at it. She became a topper, and eventually she went to an Ivy League college. But later on, she died in a horrible accident. That was very sad and unfortunate. But the point of the story is that these kind of things are coming up in rural areas. Now, education, though it isn't exactly encouraged, people aren't encouraged, women aren't encouraged to pursue education, it's still coming up. And that is very inspiring to see, because there are people working on this idea of how you make those people work towards the education, towards going somewhere else. There are scholarship funds coming and all of those. And that is actually a very nice initiative taken by the Indian government and governments all over the world, actually. So I wanted to just say that that is a very thoughtful initiative that you guys took out there too.
Yeah, thank you for adding that point, Maya, and thank you for sharing that news article. And that was really inspiring to listen to. Cindy, what is your wish for girls all over the world?
I want to tell, on my way to answering that question, I want to tell a small story about myself and how I was living into what I needed to do for my life. When I was an automotive engineer, I had 2 degrees in mechanical engineering, and I thought that that was the best way to live out my potential. When I had 2 daughters and I decided to stay at home, I remember calling my mom, who was a very driven woman, and she always raised me to believe that I could be whatever I wanted to be. And I remember being embarrassed to call her, to tell her that I wanted to stay home and raise kids, be a stay-at-home mom. And I like sheepishly got through the conversation, and then she just kind of laughed and said, you know, I raised you to be whatever you wanted to be, and that includes being a stay-at-home mom. So I really didn't need to worry. She was proud of me. And it turns out that in that new stage of life, that's when I discovered how to become a global activist. And by doing that, I'm helping millions more women and girls around the world than I ever would have reached before. So what I'm trying to say is my wish for girls is to reach their full potential, whatever that may be. There are so many ways that we can be strong women and support strong women. So I want the girls and the boys on this call to all live up to the potential and create a better future for all of us. And now I want to ask you, Purnima, because I know that we share a bit of a common history there, that you were quite a successful professional person as well. And why did you decide to switch over and be a mom at home?
Okay. Thank you so much, Cindy, for asking that question. Do you remember this was 7 or 8 years ago, or less than 10 years ago, Jen sent an email to both of us saying, hey, Purnima, do you want to meet Cindy? She's an automotive engineer too, just like you, and she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom, just like you, just like you. There was like always just like you ending every sentence. So I was an automotive engineer working to build car dashboard electronics in a past incarnation, which was 10 years ago. And when my son was born, I just felt it. The reason I felt to quit my job was to be with my son. That was how it started. I wanted to be at home and be with him. And financially, I was blessed to, let go of my job. So I decided, okay, let's do this. So my mother is a stay-at-home mom, and it was completely acceptable that I could do that. So after a postgraduate degree in engineering, I was just a stay-at-home mom. And I use the word just because I thought it was just death, right? I was not a successful woman. So it began like that. And then I discovered this advocacy with the help of Jen, with the help of all these wonderful women I met at World Moms Network. And one thing led to another. And here I am hosting these GLOW webinars, and I'm so happy and passionate doing this. If I was an automotive engineer, I would just be helping myself. Or you know what? I wouldn't be helping anybody, including myself, because that is not my ideal life. I was not living my happy life. Now I'm living my most happy, joyful, zealous life. And there isn't anything else I would rather do in the world. So, my reason is quite similar to yours too. And of course, to be with my son more and to do something more than just, advocate for myself or advocate or be joyful for myself, which was also not happening. So to advocate for a peaceful world, to bring peace and joy and content to a lot of people, to all factions of people through sharing heartfulness meditation is giving me a lot of happiness. And my hope is to spread more peace and to cultivate a peaceful mind and a joyful heart, which could probably be the solution to many problems in the world. And I find that that gives me a lot of empowerment rather than, getting a pay packet at the end of the month. That's definitely needed. I'm not denying the fact that money is important for a good life, but it gives me a lot of empowerment to think that I gave joy to somebody, I gave peace to somebody. And this webinar is going to be watched by, thousands of people, and somewhere some heart is touched and somewhere somebody is going to do some advocacy. So I feel that being an agent of change is important to me, and I would rather not be doing something else. So thank you for, bringing that out from me, Cindy. I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we are concluding this webinar with a lot of hope and inspiration shared by all these wonderful students who have inspired us today, I hope that some change is going to start. And thank you for inspiring all of us. I thank Samar and Shri for joining us from the United States. I thank Srinija, Adyant, Maya, Urvashi, Harsh, Abhinaya for joining us from India. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your school schedules, online and hybrid and, personal schooling. And I know that your exams are happening right now. Thank you for taking time out of that and joining us and sharing, your inspirations and your aspirations with all of us, with the audience. Really grateful to all of you and your school people, grateful to your parents for letting this happen. And I hope, the participants have also benefited a lot. And I hope these tiny change makers can, grow and build and create more change makers.